In the late 1990s, the Cold War was over. Europe was quiet. Borders were redrawn, old enemies shook hands, and the world began burying places it no longer wanted to remember. The U.S. Army was sent into those places, abandoned facilities, forgotten underground sites, rooms sealed so long ago no one remembered why. The mission was never dangerous. Survey, document, leave. No combat, no biological threats, no survivors. That's what we were told. But before I tell you what the U.S. Army found beneath Europe, what was waiting behind a door that should never have been opened, make sure you subscribe and support Battlefield Nightmares. And drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from tonight. Because once you hear this confession, you'll understand why some reports were erased, why some soldiers were silenced, and why some discoveries follow you home. My name isn't important anymore. It doesn't belong entirely to me. This is what we found, and this is what found us back. We were assigned to inspect a former Soviet underground installation somewhere in Eastern Europe, a joint command site. Multiple nations signed off on it, then buried it. The kind of place built in layers, meant to survive wars that never happened. The corridors were dead. No animals, no insects, no sound except our boots. Everything matched the maps until we reached a maintenance wing that shouldn't have existed. The hallway didn't echo. Sound just vanished. At the end was a steel door, industrial grade, bolted from the inside. The metal was scarred with long gouges, dragged outward, like something had tried to leave in a hurry. We cut it open. Warm air rolled out. Not stale, not trapped. Warm, wet, breathing. The smell, sweet and metallic, clung to the back of my throat. Someone joked we'd found an old generator room. No one laughed. The chamber beyond the door was circular, perfectly smooth. No seams, no welds, no tool marks. It wasn't built. It was formed. Inside stood dozens of beings. Aliens, not dead, not alive. Suspended upright in a thick, translucent fluid that clung to their bodies like mucus. They were tall, too tall, with limbs bent at angles that made your eyes slide away if you stared too long. Their skin was thin, almost transparent. You could see organs shifting slowly beneath it, as if they were breathing without lungs. They had no eyes, only shallow depressions where eyes should have been. Their mouths were open. Every single one of them faced inward. At the center of the room stood a human skeleton, U.S. Army uniform, NATO patches still stitched on. The skull had split outward, cracked from the inside, like something had forced its way free. That's when our radios turned on, all of them, at the same time. The radios didn't play voices. They played pressure, a low, crushing sensation behind the eyes, like your skull was being squeezed from the inside. It started as a hum, so low you felt it in your teeth before you heard it. Then it climbed, higher, sharper, digging into the back of your brain like a needle searching for something soft. Men started bleeding from the nose. One dropped to his knees and vomited something dark and stringy onto the floor. Private Jensen clawed at his helmet, screaming that something was crawling inside his ears. He ripped the helmet off. His hands came away wet, but there was nothing there. No blood, no wound, just wetness. Sergeant Caldwell tried to shut off his radio. He threw it across the room. The pressure in our heads grew worse. I watched Caldwell stumble backward, pressing his palms against his temples. His eyes were wide, pupils blown so large there was no color left. "It's talking," he whispered. "What's it saying?" I asked. He looked at me, like he was seeing me for the first time. It's not saying anything. It's asking. Asking what? If we're ready. Corporal Harris didn't react at all. He stood in front of the aliens, motionless. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. I grabbed his shoulder. His body was rigid, locked in place, but his skin was warm, like he had a fever. His eyes were open, staring at the beings in the fluid, but his pupils didn't move. They were fixed on something I couldn't see. Jensen started laughing, high-pitched, manic. He sat on the floor, rocking back and forth, hands covering his face. "They're showing me," he said between gasps. "They're showing me what they did." "What? Who did?" I demanded. "The Soviets. They opened it first. They brought them here. They thought they could control it." "Control what?" Jensen looked up. His nose was bleeding again, thin rivulets running down his lips. "The interface." When we pulled Harris away, his skin felt like it was vibrating, like something underneath was moving, crawling, rearranging. His hands trembled, fingers twitching, nails digging into his palms hard enough to draw blood. We dragged him out of the chamber, back into the hallway, away from the beings, away from the pressure. The moment we crossed the threshold, the radios went silent, all at once, like someone had flipped a switch. Harris collapsed, gasping, shaking. His eyes rolled back in his head, and for a moment I thought he was seizing. But then he sat up, slowly, too slowly, like his body was learning how to move again. "I'm fine," he said. His voice was flat, empty. "You're not fine," I said. "We need to get you out of here." "I'm fine," he repeated. Exactly the same tone, same cadence, like a recording playing back. That night, we set up camp in one of the upper corridors, far from the chamber, far from the door. No one slept. Jensen sat against the wall, staring at nothing, whispering under his breath. I couldn't make out the words, didn't want to. Caldwell kept checking his pulse, over and over, pressing 2 fingers against his neck, counting. His lips moved silently. "You good, Sergeant?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just kept counting. Finally, he looked at me. "My heart's beating wrong." "What do you mean wrong?" "It's beating in patterns, like Morse code, like it's trying to tell me something." I didn't know what to say to that. Harris sat upright on his cot, perfectly still, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. He didn't move for 3 hours, didn't blink, didn't shift position. At 0300 hours, he started whispering. I can hear them inside me. His voice was soft, almost childlike. "Hear what?" I ask. "The ones without eyes. They're still talking. They never stopped." "Harris, they're not here. We're not in the room anymore." He turned his head toward me, slow, mechanical. "We never left." By morning, his fingerprints were gone, smoothed flat, like his skin had been sanded down. I noticed it when he was holding his rifle. The metal was slick, wet. His palms left smears across the grip. When I looked closer, I saw his fingertips were different. The ridges and whorls that make a person unique, that identify you, were gone. Just smooth skin, like they'd been erased. When he walked, his reflection in the metal walls lagged behind him, just a fraction of a second, barely noticeable, but I saw it. His shadow moved wrong, too. It stretched when it shouldn't, bent at angles that didn't match his body. And sometimes, when he passed a reflective surface, the reflection smiled, even when Harris didn't. Jensen noticed it too. I caught him staring, eyes wide, mouth open. His reflection blinked. Harris didn't blink, but his reflection did. You're seeing things. No, I'm not. Watch him. I did, and Jensen was right. Harris stood near a polished wall panel, adjusting his gear. His face was blank, expressionless, but in the reflection, his mouth curled to a smile, slow, deliberate, like something else was wearing his face and enjoying it.
Command ordered us back into the chamber. Document everything, they said. Take samples, record measurements. We refused. They threatened court-martial. We went back in. The fluid around the beings had changed. It was darker now, thicker, moving on its own, pulsing like a heartbeat. The first alien moved. Its chest didn't open like a door. It unfolded like wet tissue peeling apart, layer by layer, skin splitting along invisible seams, ribs spreading outward like fingers. The sound was wet, organic, wrong. Inside was something pulsing, reacting, listening. It wasn't an organ. It was something else, something that didn't belong to the body it was inside. It moved, contracted, expanded, like it was breathing, watching. Harris stepped forward. No one stopped him. When he reached the alien, he stopped, stared at the open cavity, at the thing pulsing inside. Then he pressed his hands into it. The reaction was immediate. His skin sloughed away instantly, not burning, not tearing, just sliding off, like a glove being pulled inside out. Muscle stretched and fused, bones cracked and rearranged with a sound like snapping branches soaked in water. His fingers elongated, joints splitting, reforming, extra segments growing where there shouldn't be any. His jaw unhinged, teeth spilled onto the floor, clattered across the smooth stone. Small, white, human. But his mouth didn't close. It kept opening, wider, impossibly wide. The skin at the corners of his lips tore. Blood ran down his chin. Something moved inside his throat, bulging, pressing outward. He didn't die. He stood there, connected, trembling as something inside the alien crawled into him. I could see it moving, traveling, sliding up his arms, beneath his skin, veins darkening, bulging, spreading like roots. It reached his chest, his heart. His body convulsed. Once, twice. Then he went still. His eyes opened, but they weren't his eyes anymore. The others started screaming. Jensen fired his rifle into the ceiling, rounds ricocheting. He wasn't aiming, wasn't thinking, just pulling the trigger over and over. Caldwell grabbed him, wrestled the rifle away. Jensen clawed at his own face, nails digging into his cheeks, dragging downward, blood welling up in thin lines. One man, I don't remember his name anymore, shot himself in the head to stop the noise. The blast echoed through the chamber, once, then silence. His fingers hooked into his eye sockets, pulling, tearing. Caldwell tackled him, pinned his arms, but the man kept screaming, kept begging. The room wasn't attacking us. It was choosing, and we couldn't stop it.
They weren't prisoners. They were interfaces. The room wasn't a prison or a lab. It was a control chamber. Those aliens were never meant to leave their bodies. Their bodies were tools, shells, designed, engineered, grown for a single purpose, to bridge the gap between what they were and what we are. But they failed.
Their biology was too different, too rigid, too incompatible with the signal. Humans were better. Adaptive, emotional, replaceable. Our brains are plastic, malleable. We rewrite ourselves constantly. Every memory, every experience, every trauma. We're built to change. And that's what they needed. Anyone who listened long enough was rewritten. Anyone who stayed became compatible. Harris turned to face us. His movements were wrong, jerky, like a puppet on strings that weren't quite tight enough. "You understand now," he said. But it wasn't his voice. "What do I understand?" I asked. "Why we're here, why we've always been here, waiting. For what? For you. You're the bridge. You're the answer." Caldwell raised his rifle, hands shaking. "Stay back, Harris. I'm not Harris anymore. What do you want?" The thing wearing Harris smiled. "To go home." I destroyed every radio I could reach. Shot them, crushed them, ripped wires out with my bare hands. Sparks flew, plastic shattered, metal bent. The noise faded. Not gone, but quieter, distant, like a voice on the other side of a door. I sealed the chamber manually, pulled the reinforced blast door closed, spun the locking wheel until my hands bled. Harris stayed behind, still standing in the center of the room, surrounded by the beings, surrounded by the fluid. He didn't try to stop me, didn't move, just watched. "You can't keep us in here," he said calmly. "I can try. We're already out. We're already spreading. You brought us with you." I slammed the door shut. The last thing I saw was his face, still smiling, still changing. The report said structural collapse. No biological entities recovered. No survivors. I was the only one who made it out, the only one they debriefed. They asked me questions for 3 days straight, same questions, over and over. What did you see? What did you hear? What happened to the others? I told them everything. They didn't believe me, or they did, and that was worse. I was discharged, medical reasons, psychological trauma, ordered never to speak about it, signed documents, sworn to secrecy, threatened with imprisonment if I ever broke silence. They thought it was over. They thought sealing the room was enough.
It wasn't over. It followed me. At night, I feel the pressure behind my eyes, the same pressure from that day, building, squeezing. I hear breathing when the house is quiet, slow, rhythmic, not my own. Coming from inside the walls, or inside my head, I can't tell anymore. Sometimes I wake up standing in my hallway, hands pressed against the wall, whispering words I don't understand. My wife found me once, 0300 hours, standing in the dark, palms flat against the plaster, forehead resting against it, whispering. She said it sounded like another language, but not one she recognized. When she touched my shoulder, I didn't respond. She shook me hard. I turned around, slowly, and she said my eyes were wrong. "You weren't looking at me," she told me later. "You were looking through me." I've found marks on my skin, smooth places where fingerprints should be. Left hand first, index finger and middle finger. Then the right. Now both hands are almost completely smooth. I can't unlock my phone anymore. The fingerprint scanner doesn't recognize me. At the gun range, my grip leaves wet smears on the metal, like Harris. And sometimes when I look in the mirror,
My reflection blinks, late, a fraction of a second behind, just enough to notice. I've stopped looking. They don't need the room anymore. They know how to use us now, how to spread, how to wait, how to wear us like we wore uniforms. If you're hearing this, it means the signal traveled farther than we thought. And if you ever find a door that doesn't echo, don't open it. Because some rooms don't need to chase you. They already know the way home. And they're patient. So very patient. They'll wait until you're tired, until you're weak, until you stop fighting. And then they'll step inside, and you'll never even know it happened. Until one night, you wake up standing in your hallway, hands pressed against the wall, whispering words you don't understand, and your reflection smiles when you don't.